this is Princess Readaloud from Kids Reading Corner 207, and today we're going to read Mixed Signals from Knowhere. Written by Colin, Hosten, illustrated by Aurelio, Mazzara, and Gaetano, Petrigno. From the 5-Minute Marvel Stories. On Knowhere, Drax was lost in his thoughts. He turned to one of the teapots and didn't even notice the supply clerk smiling at him. What's got you down? The clerk asked. Drax jumped, surprised. The supply clerk looked ridiculous. She almost lost among a clutter of recycled machinery, wires, and space gadgets. She seemed to be wearing some of it too. I am not down, Drax replies. You're the one who is down. You are very short. Ha, you're funny, she said. I'm Kaz, by the way. Kaz, Drax repeated. That's a silly name. I'm Drax. She laughed again, and this time Drax smiled. Drax, that's a cool name, Kaz said. Where are you from? No, are you from Knowhere? Drax suddenly remembered he had somewhere to be. I should be going. Kaz nodded, and Drax saw the look of disappointment in her eyes. Without thinking, he continued, Do you want to come with me? Kaz smiled. Sure. Drax led her back to the Milano, enjoying the way she laughed at everything he said. The other Guardians were surprised that when Drax introduced his new friend. I am Groot, Groot said, extending his branch to Kaz. Rocket smirked. Maybe she can help me with one of my gadgets. Nice to meet you, Gamora said simply. Star-Lord was not as friendly, not suspicious at all, he muttered to himself. It's not like we have mystery people trying to sneak on our ship here. Just then, the emergency distress signal started to beep. Star-Lord rushed over in the communication console, where Rocket was already intercepting the message. It's coming from right here on Knowhere, Rocket relayed. Well, is it somewhere or nowhere? Drax asked. It's somewhere on Knowhere, Gamora interjected. The look on Kaz's face turned to alarm. Star-Lord narrowed his eyes at her. You wouldn't happen to know anything about this, would you? He said. Just then a huge blast shook the Milano. It knocked the Guardians and Kaz off their feet. Outside, burning embers and smoke still billowed from the blast. Star-Lord led the Guardians to go investigate. Star-Lord looked up to see Iron Man, one of Earth's mightiest Avengers. Oh, good, Star-Lord said. Reinforcements. I don't think he's here to help, Gamora said, as Iron Man turned and fired a huge blast at a building. He's attacking. I am Groot, Groot said. I know, pal. He may be a good guy, Rocket repeated, but I'm sure he's now on a rampage. Please do something, Kaz cried. This is my home. Hold on, Star-Lord said as the Guardians rambled up for battle. We have to try to take him down without hurting him. Agreed, Gamora said. This isn't right. Iron Man wouldn't do something like this. Somebody should tell him that, Rocket yelled as he and Groot jumped out of the way of a blast. Suddenly a voice rang overhead. Need a hand? The Guardians looked up to see Thor, the mighty Avenger. Wow, I'm telepathic, Rocket said, looking up at Thor in wonder. Or maybe I was on a mission to Xandar and heard the same distress signal you did, Thor replied. Speaking of which, Star-Lord said as he fired a blast at Iron Man, who easily maneuvered out of the way. A little help, please. Yes, Thor said, focusing his attention on Iron Man. This is highly unusual behavior. Well, what are you waiting for? Rocket yelled, growling impatient with Thor's lack of urgency. You see, Thor said, in 3, 2, now! At that moment, a green blur jumped from a building behind Iron Man and slammed into the rampaging Avenger, knocking him to the ground. Hulk smash! I believe you know Hulk, Thor said, landing on the ground where Hulk now had Iron Man pinned. I am Groot, Groot said. You're one to talk, Rocket replied. You look pretty weird yourself. Gamora nodded at Thor and Hulk. Thanks for the assistance, but what's gotten into Iron Man? What's your plan here, huh? Star-Lord said to Kaz accusingly. Is this some sort of distraction? Kaz was shocked. I don't know what you're talking about. Cut the act, sister, Star-Lord replied. You're obviously behind this in some way. Drax stepped in front of Kaz defensively. What are you implying? He asked Star-Lord. This is no coincidence, Star-Lord said. Your girlfriend is totally evil. Friends, Thor said as he put a hand to his ear. He was receiving an urgent call through his communicator. It's Tony Stark. But if you're talking to Tony Stark, then who's that? Gamora asked, pointing at the Iron Man suit on the ground. Only one way to find out, Star-Lord said, bending down to open Iron Man's helmet to find there was nowhere inside. The suit's empty, but it looks like his arc reactor has been tampered with. Let me see, Rocket said, examining the blinking gadget. I've seen these before. It's an ordinary tracking device. You can get them anywhere. Gamora looked at Star-Lord, who was flustered. I believe you owe Kaz an apology. Star-Lord turned to Drax and Kaz. Look, I'm sorry about earlier, he said. I shouldn't have rushed to judgment. It's okay, Kaz said with a smile. We understand, Drax replied with a shrug. You were just jealous. Star-Lord groaned. I'm not jealous. The end. Thanks for listening and read lots.